October 31st, 1981. The Longbottom house. The door didn't break. That was the detail the Aura reports would later fixate on, that Voldemort hadn't blasted through the front door of the Longbottom cottage. He'd opened it. The wards recognised a wand that carried no hostile intent toward the structure itself, only toward the people inside. And the distinction was enough. Frank Longbottom was in the sitting room. His wand was on the mantelpiece, 6 feet away, which was 3 feet too many. He'd been reading. Alice had been upstairs with the baby. Frank had duelled Voldemort twice and survived both times. A man in his own home should be allowed to set his wand down. He died reaching for it. His fingers were 3 inches from the handle. Alice heard him fall. The sound a body makes when the life leaves it is different from any other sound, a kind of deflation, and she knew. She had Neville in her arms. She could have apparated. The cottage's anti-apparition wards were keyed to let the residents out in emergencies. She could have gone. She put Neville in the crib. She turned to face the staircase. She drew her wand. Alice Longbottom did not beg. She was an Aura, and she fought. She cast 3 spells before the green light ended it. A Reducto that cracked the banister, a Confringo that blew out the hallway wall, and a shield charm that lasted a 1/4 of a second against the killing curse before it shattered. She died standing up. The protection activated anyway, not because Alice had been given a choice to step aside. The protection activated because Alice could have apparated and didn't, could have taken the baby and gone, had chosen to fight instead of flee, and the choosing was the sacrifice. The magic didn't care about the staging. The magic cared about the choice. The killing curse hit the crib. The curse rebounded. Voldemort screamed, a sound the neighbours heard through the cottage walls, and the scream was the last sound he made for 13 years. 3 hours later, Albus Dumbledore stood in the nursery and looked at the wreckage. The plan had been different. Dumbledore had positioned the anti-apparition exemption specifically so that Alice could flee with the child. The strategy? Voldemort arrives, Alice escapes, the Order tracks Voldemort through the ward's residual signature, had not included Alice fighting, had not included Alice dying. I assume she would run, Dumbledore said. To himself. To the dead woman on the landing. I designed the escape. And she fought. He picked up the baby. Neville was heavy, a sturdy child, built like Frank, with Alice's round face and a new scar that would define his life. You will go to Augusta, Dumbledore said. I will try to be less wrong about what happens next than I was about what happened tonight. The betrayal, the Fidelius charm on the Longbottom cottage had a secret keeper. The secret keeper was Dorcas Meadows, Order member, Alice's closest friend, chosen because the Longbottoms trusted personal loyalty over strategic calculation. Dorcas was killed on October 29th, 2 days before Halloween. Killed by Voldemort personally, the killing strategic, guided by information from a spy in the Order. The spy was Mundungus Fletcher, not Peter Pettigrew. Pettigrew was the Potters' concern, and the Potters had survived. Mundungus, the petty criminal who had joined the Order for protection rather than cause, had sold operational details to a Death Eater contact for 60 galleons and a promise of immunity. Mundungus hadn't intended to kill anyone. He'd sold logistics, safe house locations, meeting schedules, personnel rotations, the kind of information that seemed harmless in pieces and that, assembled by someone with Voldemort's analytical capability, produced a map. The map led to Dorcas. Dorcas led to the cottage. The cottage led to everything. 60 galleons, Frank's portrait said, years later. In Augusta's house. They sold our location for 60 galleons. The trial was in January 1982. Mundungus claimed he hadn't known what the information was for. The Visengamot found him guilty of accessory to murder. He received 15 years in Azkaban. He served 9. Augusta attended every day of the trial. She wore the vulture hat. She did not speak. She sat in the gallery and watched the man who had sold her son's address for pocket change, and the watching was the closest thing to violence that Augusta Longbottom permitted herself. The Potters, James and Lily Potter, survived. The survival was uncomplicated. Voldemort chose the Longbottoms, not the Potters, and the choosing meant that James continued working in the Auror Reserves, and Lily continued her research, and Harry continued being born and growing and existing in a world where his parents were alive. The survival was also complicated, because Lily and Alice had been friends. Close friends. The kind of friends who finished each other's sentences and who had been pregnant at the same time and who had joked in the last months of the war about their sons growing up together. "We'll have joint birthday parties," Alice had said. July 1980. 8 months pregnant. At an order meeting. "Our boys are going to be terrors," Lily had said. "Potter Longbottom Alliance. Hogwarts won't survive." Lily did not talk about Alice easily. The grief was private, processed through work, through the sacrificial protection research that gave the grief an academic framework. Lily studied what Alice had done because studying was the way Lily managed the guilt of being alive. "You're researching your friend's death," James said. One night, year 3 of the research. Harry was 4. "I'm researching how she saved her son," Lily said. "You're researching why she died and you didn't." Lily set down the parchment. "Yes, I'm researching that. Because the answer is that Voldemort picked a number between 1 and 2 and Alice lost. And I need to understand why the magic works, why the sacrifice produces the protection, why Alice's choice to stay became a shield. Because it might have been you," James said. "Because it should have been me," Lily said. Or, not should have, could have. The prophecy applied to both boys. The choice was arbitrary. And the arbitrary choice killed my friend. James put his arms around her in the kitchen, with the parchment and the research and the guilt. "It wasn't arbitrary to Voldemort," James said. "He chose the Longbottoms because they were Aurors. Because they'd fought him directly. We fought him too," Lily said. "We evaded him," James said. "Frank and Alice confronted him. There's a difference, and the difference is why he chose them. The difference is style," Lily said. "We survived because we ran from our fights, and Alice died because she ran toward hers. You'd have run toward yours too," James said. "I know," Lily said. "That's the point. The Potters included Neville in their family, not as charity, as obligation. The obligation Lily felt to Alice, expressed through playdates and holidays and the summer weeks that became Neville's annual reprieve from Augusta's house. Augusta Longbottom was formidable. The vulture hat, the fox fur collar, the handbag. The posture of a woman who had survived the First War by being too formidable to attack, and who now, at 68, was raising her grandson. The raising was Augusta's. The methodology was Augusta's. The standards were Augusta's. And Augusta's standards were, Frank, he should be walking by now, Augusta told the healer when Neville was 18 months old. He's within normal range. Normal range is not Longbottom range. His father was walking at 13 months. Neville walked at 19 months. Augusta noted the delay. His first accidental magic was at 5, turning Augusta's vulture hat blue during an argument about bedtime. Augusta noted the magic. She also noted, to visitors, that the magic had been prompted by temper rather than determination. Frank's first magic was lifting the cat off the mantelpiece, Augusta said. At dinner. In front of Neville. Purposeful, controlled, very frank. What was mine? Neville asked. 6 years old, sitting at the kitchen table. You turned my hat blue because you didn't want to go to bed. Was that bad? It was magic. We were beginning to worry you were a squib. Uncle Algy had dropped him from a window when he was 8. testing, in the Longbottom family's robust approach to child rearing, whether the boy had enough magic to survive the fall. Neville bounced off the lawn and into the road. Algy was delighted. Augusta was relieved in a way that communicated to an 8-year-old the relief means they expected me to fail. Bouncing is not flying, Augusta said to Algy. Bouncing is a start, Algy said. Frank would have flown, Augusta said. The comparison was daily. At breakfast, at dinner, at the Sunday, visits to Frank and Alice's graves in the churchyard behind the Longbottom estate. The graves were maintained by Augusta personally. Fresh flowers every week, the stones polished, the inscriptions clean. Augusta brought Neville to the graves and stood beside him, and the standing was the instruction. These are the people you come from. These are the standards. Tell your father about your marks, Augusta said. At the graves. When Neville was 9. Gran, he's, tell him. I got an exceeds expectations in my tutor's maths, Neville said. To the grave, to the stone that bore his father's name. And the rest? Augusta said. Acceptable in everything else, Neville said. Acceptable, Augusta said. The word was neutral in her mouth. The neutrality was the judgment. Acceptable was not outstanding, and outstanding was Longbottom range. I tried, Neville said. Trying is the minimum, Augusta said. Results are the standard. They stood at the graves. Grandmother and grandson, the fresh flowers and the polished stones and the standards that the dead could not lower and the living could not meet. Neville at 7. The garden Neville discovered plants at 7. The discovery was not dramatic. The discovery was a boy in his grandmother's garden, kneeling in the dirt, looking at a seedling that was doing something. The seedling was growing. Visibly, in the time it took Neville to watch, the seedling pushed 2 inches out of the soil. Gran, Neville said. Come look. Augusta came. She looked at the seedling. She looked at Neville. She looked at the dirt on his knees and the wonder on his face and the 2 inches of growth that should have taken a week and had taken 10 minutes. You have your mother's touch, Augusta said. And then, because Augusta could not leave a compliment unqualified, Alice could grow anything. Your father couldn't keep a cactus alive. Mum grew things, Neville said. Alice had the best garden in Yorkshire, Augusta said. Before the war, the herbology prize 3 years running at Hogwarts. She was good at herbology, Neville said. She was brilliant at herbology, Augusta said. The aura work was Frank's. The growing was Alice's. It was the first time Augusta had compared Neville to Alice rather than to Frank. The comparison was different. The comparison said, there is a parent you resemble. And the parent you resemble is the one who grew things. Neville went to the garden every day after that. The garden became the place where Neville was good at something, where the thing he was good at was not measured against Frank's aura record, where the dirt and the growing were their own language and the language was Neville's. Augusta watched him from the kitchen window. She did not comment on the garden. The not commenting was, for Augusta, the closest thing to permission. The wand at 11. Augusta placed Frank's wand on the kitchen table. Ashwood, unicorn hair core, 12 inches, polished, maintained, the wand of an aura who had duelled Voldemort twice and who had died reaching for this precise instrument. This was your father's, Augusta said. You will honour it. Neville picked up the wand. The wand was wrong. Not broken, wrong, the way a shoe 2 sizes too large is wrong. The magic in his hand met the magic in the wand, and the meeting was friction, not cooperation. The wand's allegiance was to someone else, and the someone else was dead, and the death did not release the allegiance. It feels, Neville started. It feels like your father's legacy, Augusta said. Yes, Gran. In his room that night, Neville tried a levitation charm on a book. The book shot sideways and hit the window. He tried a light charm. The light flickered, went green, went out. He tried a warming charm on his hands. His left hand went warm, his right hand went numb. The wand did not refuse him. The wand permitted him, grudgingly, reluctantly, with the passive resistance of an instrument that had been designed for someone else and that was being used by a person it hadn't chosen. Neville put the wand on his bedside table and looked at it and thought, "This is Dad's. This is the last piece of Dad. I have to make it work." He did not think, "Maybe I need my own." The thought did not occur to him because the possibility of having his own, of having anything that was his rather than Frank's, was not a possibility that Augusta's raising had included. Platform 9 3/4. September 1st, 1991, Neville lost Trevor on the platform. The toad escaped while Augusta was delivering her annual speech. "Has anyone seen a toad?" Neville asked, sticking his head into compartments. The question delivered with the apologetic quality of a person who expected irritation. "No toad," said the girl in the third compartment. Bushy-haired, already in her robes, surrounded by books. "But I can help you look." "I'm Hermione Granger." "Neville Longbottom." Hermione's eyes went to the scar. "Half a second. I've read about you. The books are probably wrong about several things. That's not what most people say. Most people don't think about sources critically enough. Shall we find your toad?" They found Trevor behind a luggage trunk. They also found Ron Weasley eating sandwiches. "Oi, is that a toad? Who still has toads?" "I do." "Brilliant. Want a sandwich? It's corned beef." Neville took the sandwich. The offering was uncomplicated. It came with corned beef and Ron's cheerful indifference to the fact that the person eating it was the most famous child in the wizarding world. "Thanks, don't mention it. Seriously, don't tell Mum I gave away her sandwiches." Ron ate. Neville ate. Hermione watched them eat with the expression of a girl who had more important things to discuss, but who was learning. Reluctantly, that eating was also a form of conversation. "So," Ron said, "the boy who lived. Is it weird? Being famous?" "I'm not famous," Neville said. "The scar is famous. I just carry it." "That's a weird distinction," Ron said. "It's the only one I've got," Neville said. "The sorting the hat considered Hufflepuff. You'd do well there. The loyalty. The patience," Neville thought. "Just put me wherever I won't mess up." The hat laughed. The fear of messing up. The willingness to try despite the fear. That is the difference, Mr. Longbottom. Hufflepuff would protect you from the fear. Gryffindor will ask you to carry it. Gryffindor. The table cheered. Neville sat down and a second year clapped him on the back hard enough to rattle his teeth. Harry Potter was sorted 3 names later. Gryffindor. He sat across from Neville. "My mum knew your mum," Harry said. "Said she was brilliant. I don't remember her." "Course not. You were a baby." Harry passed the potatoes. "Mum says your mum was the best duelist in their year." Harry said my mum casually, presently. Neville said she was in past tense. "My dad says first year's easy," Harry said. "Except potions. He says the potions teacher's a nightmare." "Who's the potions teacher?" Neville said. "Someone called Snape." Snape looked at Neville on the first day of potions, and the looking was 3 seconds of a man confronting a consequence. Snape had carried the prophecy to Voldemort. His information had produced the choice. Alice Longbottom was dead because of words Snape had repeated, and Lily was alive. Married to Potter. In Godric's Hollow. All because Voldemort had gone to the other house. Snape's information had preserved the person he loved by destroying 2 people he'd never thought about. Longbottom. What would I get if I added powdered root of asphodel to an infusion of wormwood? I don't. The drought of living death. Snape's voice was flat. Perhaps an area of study your parents should have prioritized. The classroom went silent. Snape spent the rest of the lesson orbiting Neville's desk like a bird of prey over a field, circling, watching, evaluating the damage. Neville's potion was wrong. Neville's potion was always going to be wrong, because Neville was terrified, and the terror produced shaking hands, and shaking hands produced imprecise cutting, and imprecise cutting produced failed potions. Pathetic, Snape said, looking at the grey sludge in Neville's cauldron. Neville said nothing. He had spent 11 years learning to absorb judgments without visible response. The skill was not bravery. The skill was survival. After class, Harry found Neville in the corridor. "Snape's a git," he said. "He mentioned my parents. My mum says Snape's been nasty since school. They were friends before he went nowhere good." First term. What the wand cost the wand problem became visible in charms. Flitwick asked the class to levitate feathers. Wingardium Leviosa, the simplest spell in the first-year curriculum. Hermione's feather rose on the first attempt, Harry's rose on the third, Ron's exploded. Neville's feather shot sideways off the desk and stuck to the wall. "Interesting," Flitwick said, looking at the feather embedded in the stone. "Mr. Longbottom, your power output is considerable. Your directional control needs work." "The wand does that," Neville said. "The spells go, not where I point them." "The wand," Flitwick said. He examined the wand, Frank's wand. "This is an older wand. It was my father's." "Ah," Flitwick said, the R of a professional who understood immediately. "The wand's allegiance is complicated. It may resist redirection. Can you fix it?" "I can teach you to compensate," Flitwick said. "The compensation requires more energy than a properly matched wand. You'll tire faster. Your spells will be less precise. But the compensation is learnable." "Is there another option?" Neville said. "A different wand," Flitwick said. "One that chooses you." "I can't," Neville said. "This one is my dad's." Flitwick looked at Neville with an expression that was equal parts sympathy and frustration. The frustration of a teacher watching a student handicap himself for emotional reasons that the teacher understood, but that the teacher's professional standards could not endorse. "Then we compensate," Flitwick said. "Tuesday evenings. Extra practice." The extra practice helped. Not enough. The compensation was a workaround, not a solution. And workarounds leaked energy and precision the way a cracked pipe leaked water. But the practice meant that Neville's spells went approximately where he pointed them rather than wildly off target. "You're overcompensating to the left," Flitwick said. During a Tuesday session. "October, the wand's resistance pulls right, and you're overcorrecting." "How do I stop overcorrecting?" "Trust the spell," Flitwick said. "Trust the intent. The wand fights you because the wand's allegiance is elsewhere. But the intent, your intent, is genuine. The spell will find the intent if you stop fighting the wand's fighting." "Stop fighting the fighting," Neville said. "Fight the problem, not the resistance," Flitwick said. "A dueling principle. The opponent's defense creates an opening. Don't attack the defense. Attack through the opening." "You're teaching me dueling principles in charms," Neville said. "I'm teaching you the principle," Flitwick said. "The application is yours. The troll Halloween. The troll." Hermione in the bathroom. Harry went. James and Lily Potter's son ran toward danger automatically. His parents had told him stories about the war, not the politics, the people. The people who had needed help and the people who had provided it. Harry Potter's moral education was not abstract. Harry's moral education was, when someone needs help, you go. Neville followed. His legs didn't want to. His hands didn't want to. Frank's wand, in his pocket, didn't want to. But Harry was going, and Hermione was in danger, and Neville could not stand in a staircase and let his friend go alone. Ron followed Neville. Because Ron had made Hermione cry, and the guilt was louder than the fear. The troll in the bathroom, 12 feet tall, club dragging. Distract it, Harry said. Ron, throw something. Neville, get Hermione. Ron threw a pipe. The pipe hit the troll's shoulder. The troll turned. Neville ran for the stalls, his legs shaking. Frank's wand in his pocket, and he didn't draw it because he knew the wand would send the spell wrong, and wrong in a bathroom with a troll meant someone getting hurt. Hermione. Move, now what? Troll, move. They ran. The club hit the wall behind them. Porcelain exploded. Water sprayed. Harry levitated the club and dropped it on the troll's head. The troll fell. Neville was on the floor, soaking wet, holding Hermione's arm. He had not cast a spell. McGonagall arrived. Points deducted and awarded. The four of them walked to the common room covered in toilet water. You didn't cast anything, Ron said. The wand doesn't work right for me under pressure. The spells go wrong. Have you told anyone? Hermione said. Told them what? That the boy who lived can't cast under pressure with his dead father's wand? The wand chooses the wizard, Hermione said. That's established magical law. A wand that chose someone else will always resist. I can't tell Gran, Neville said. Why not? Harry said. Because the wand is Dad. The wand is the last piece of Dad. Telling Gran it doesn't work is telling Gran I can't be him. They were quiet. We'll work around it, Hermione said. For how long? Neville said. Nobody had an answer. The mirror, the Philosopher's Stone, the trapdoor, the obstacles. Neville handled the Devil's Snare. His casting never failed with plants, because herbology magic responded to patience rather than combat instinct. The Devil's Snare relaxed under his touch before he even drew the wand. How did you do that? Hermione said. I told it to let go, Neville said. You talked to a plant, Ron said. Plants listen, Neville said, if you know what to say. Ron navigated the chess set. Hermione solved the potions puzzle. Harry went through to the mirror room, because Harry was the most combat capable, because Harry's wand worked for him, because going first was what Harry did. But Harry couldn't get the stone from the mirror. The mirror showed Harry his family, James, Lily, himself, together, happy, the image of what he already had. The stone didn't appear, because Harry's deepest desire wasn't the stone. It's not working, Harry said. I can see my parents, but no stone. Let me try, Neville said. He stood in front of the mirror of Erist. The mirror showed him. His face changed. The anxiety smoothed. The tension left his shoulders. His hand went to his pocket. The stone was there. Got it. What did you see? Hermione said. Nothing important. He never told anyone. The mirror showed Neville himself, without the scar, without the fame, without Augusta's expectations. Just a boy. Ordinary, free. His deepest desire was to not be the boy who lived. And the desire to not want the stone was the quality that made the mirror surrender it. Quirrell arrived. The protection activated, Alice's love, burning Quirrell's hands on contact. Quirrell fell. In the hospital wing, you retrieved the stone because you did not want it for yourself, Dumbledore said. A rare quality. I just wanted to be normal, Neville said. Normal is an aspiration that becomes more valuable the less available it is. Neville didn't respond. He wasn't sure Dumbledore was right, and he wasn't sure how to say so. First summer, the Potter's House Lily invited Neville for the last 2 weeks of summer. Augusta agreed because Augusta had a Wizengamot session and because the Potter House, despite its informality, was an acceptable environment. The Potter House was chaos. Warm, loud, messy chaos. James's Quidditch equipment in the hallway, Lily's research papers on every surface, Harry's owl hooting in the rafters, the smell of cooking that was ambitious and occasionally successful. Welcome to the circus, James said. At the door. Thank you, Mr. Potter. James. Call me James. Mr. Potter is what the Auror cadets call me when they're in trouble. Neville spent 2 weeks at the Potter house. 2 weeks of eating meals with a family, sitting at a table where the conversation was loud and interrupted, and where nobody measured the quality of his answers. "What's your favourite subject?" Lily asked. At dinner. First night. Herbology. Alice loved herbology, Lily said, and then stopped herself. The stopping was visible, the catch, the awareness that she'd said the dead friend's name at the table, the calculation of whether to continue. "Tell me," Neville said. "What?" "About Mum. And herbology. Gran talks about Dad, about the Auror work. She doesn't talk about Mum's plants." Lily looked at James. James gave the smallest nod. "Alice had a garden," Lily said. "Behind the cottage. The cottage where you lived. She grew everything. Medicinal herbs, magical flowers, a devil's snare she'd trained to guard the gate." "A trained devil's snare?" Neville said. "It let friends through and strangled strangers," Lily said. "Alice was the only person I've ever known who could train a devil's snare. I made one let go," Neville said. "At school. Under the trapdoor." Lily stared at him. "You made a devil's snare release?" "I talked to it." "Alice talked to hers," Lily said. She said they responded to people who weren't afraid of them." "I wasn't afraid," Neville said. "I'm never afraid of plants." "No," Lily said. "I don't suppose you are." The dinner continued. James told a story about the time Alice's devil's snare tried to eat Sirius. Harry laughed. Neville laughed. The laughing was easy. The laughing at the Potter table was easy in a way that nothing at Augusta's table was easy. Neville went to bed that night in Harry's room and thought about his mother's garden. The garden he'd never seen. The garden that was gone. He thought about the plants in Augusta's garden, the plants he tended every day, the seedlings that grew faster under his hands than they should. He thought about Alice's touch. He thought about inheritance, not the wand, not the legacy, not the Auror career. The inheritance of patience, the inheritance of talking to plants. He fell asleep thinking about devil's snares and woke up, for the first time in a long time, without the dream about Augusta's expectations. Second year. The Chamber of Secrets opened because the diary existed and Ginny Weasley received it. The mechanism was independent of who the boy who lived was. What changed was everything around the mechanism. Neville did not speak Parseltongue. The Horcrux in his scar did not express that way. The fragment's influence on Neville was subtler, harder to identify, manifesting not as a language but as a weight, a low-grade drain on his magical core that made every spell slightly harder, every day slightly more tiring, and that nobody, including Neville, recognised as abnormal, because abnormal was all Neville had ever known. The dueling club happened in December. Lockhart, predictably useless, paired Harry against Malfoy. Malfoy conjured a snake. The snake advanced toward a student. Harry stepped between the snake and the student. "Don't move," Harry said, to the student. In English. Normal, unremarkable English. Harry did not speak Parseltongue. Harry was James and Lily Potter's son, and the connection to Voldemort, the connection that produced the Parseltongue, was in Neville's head, not Harry's. The snake was vanished by Snape. The incident passed without the Parseltongue revelation that had defined the other timeline's second year. Nobody suspected Neville of being the heir of Slytherin. Nobody suspected anyone. The attacks were attributed to dark magic from an unknown source, and the investigation was conducted by the staff rather than by 3 12-year-olds. Hermione was petrified in February. Found in the library corridor, mirror in her hand, the basilisk's reflection having done its partial work. Neville sat by her bed in the hospital wing. For 3 hours. Talking to the potted plant on the bedside table because talking to the plant was the only thing that felt productive. "She'll be all right," Harry said. Beside him. I know, Neville said. The mandrake restorative will fix it. My mandrakes are almost mature. Your mandrakes? Harry said. Professor Sprout's letting me tend the restorative batch, Neville said. They're maturing faster than the main crop. Faster? Harry said. 3 weeks faster, Neville said. They respond to, I don't know, attention, consistency. You've been going to the greenhouses every evening, Harry said. Hermione needs the restorative, Neville said. The mandrakes need tending. The connection is obvious. The connection is that you're spending 4 hours a night with screaming baby plants because your friend is petrified. They don't scream at me, Neville said. They scream at everyone, Harry said. Not at me, Neville said. I think they know I'm not there to hurt them. Harry looked at Neville, at this 12-year-old sitting beside his petrified friend, tending plants, being useful in the only way he knew how to be useful. It was not heroic. It was not dramatic. It was Neville. The mandrakes matured 3 weeks early. The restorative was brewed. Hermione woke up in April instead of May. Dumbledore dealt with the chamber. With the Potters alive and politically active, Lucius Malfoy's bid to remove Dumbledore from the school failed. Dumbledore stayed. Dumbledore entered the chamber with Fawkes. The diary was destroyed. The basilisk was killed. Ginny was rescued. The crisis resolved without Neville going underground to fight a 60-foot snake. The crisis resolved through institutional competence, which was anticlimactic and appropriate because 12-year-olds should not have to fight 60-foot snakes. They didn't need me, Neville told Harry. After, they needed your mandrakes, Harry said. That's not the same as being needed. Hermione's alive because your plants grew faster, Harry said. That's exactly the same. Neville wasn't sure Harry was right, but he didn't argue. Third year, the Boggart Lupin's classroom. September, the wardrobe rattling. Students lined up. Spiders became roller skating. Mummies tripped over bandages. Neville's turn. The Boggart became Augusta Longbottom. The vulture hat. The fox fur collar your father would have, ridiculous. Neville's voice cracked. Frank's wand resisting, the spell powered by an emotion the wand didn't share. Nothing happened. Ridiculous. Again, the Boggart Augusta stepped forward. Disappointing, ridiculous. The Boggart Augusta was wearing Frank's aura robes, too large, the helmet slipping over her eyes. The class didn't laugh. The absurdity was too close to something real. Lupin stepped in. The Boggart shifted to the moon. After class, I don't have advice for that, Lupin said. Everyone has advice, Neville said. Everyone says she loves you in her way or she means well. I'm not going to say any of those things. Why not? Because you've heard them and they haven't helped. Want some chocolate? Yeah. Lupin handed him a bar of Honeydukes chocolate. Neville ate it. The chocolate did not fix anything. The chocolate was warm and sweet, and the warmth was a thing he needed. Professor, Neville said. My Boggart wasn't Voldemort. No, it wasn't. Is that wrong? The boy who lived should probably be afraid of the person who... Shouldn't I be afraid of Voldemort? You were 15 months old, Lupin said. You don't remember Voldemort. You remember your grandmother. The fear of the person who shapes your daily life is... It's normal, Neville, normal for people whose grandmothers are. Normal for people whose primary caregiver operates through expectation rather than affirmation, Lupin said. And then? I shouldn't have said that. I'm a defense teacher, not a mind healer. No, Neville said. That was actually overstepping, Lupin said. It was overstepping. Forget I said it. I don't want to forget you said it, Neville said. Lupin looked uncomfortable. The discomfort of a person who had accidentally been too perceptive and who now wanted to retreat into the safe territory of syllabus discussion. More chocolate? Lupin said. Please. Third year, Sirius Black visited the Potter house regularly. This was the timeline's most uncomplicated gift. Sirius was free. Sirius was not in Azkaban. Sirius was James's best friend and Harry's godfather, and the loud, reckless, motorcycle-riding presence that the Potter household contained on weekends. Sirius met Neville at Christmas of third year. The Potter Christmas, Lily's cooking, James's terrible decorations, the annual chaos. "So you're Alice's boy," Sirius said, in the kitchen, leaning against the counter. "Yes," Sirius looked at Neville with the direct, unfiltered assessment of a man who processed the world through immediate impressions. "You don't look like Frank," Sirius said. "I know. You look like Alice. Same face, same eyes. Gran says I look like Dad." "Augusta's wrong about that," Sirius said. "Augusta's wrong about a lot of things. I knew Alice. You're her. You knew my mum?" "She hexed me in 6th year for calling Lily a bad word," Sirius said. "Well, not a bad word exactly, but a word Alice didn't approve of. She hit me with a stinging hex that lasted 3 days. Brilliant aim. Brilliant woman." "What word?" "Not important," Sirius said. "Point is, Alice didn't take any nonsense. From anyone. She was quiet about it. Not like me, not loud. She'd just look at you. This look that said, 'I know exactly what you did and I am not impressed.'" "Gran does that," Neville said. "Augusta does a version of it," Sirius said. "Augusta's version says, 'You failed to meet the standard.' Alice's version said, 'You're better than this.'" "Different looks," Neville said. "Same face," Sirius said. "Different meaning." Neville sat in the Potter kitchen and thought about Alice's look. The look he'd never seen. The look that said you're better than this rather than you've failed. He thought about what it would be like to have a parent whose first response to his failures was belief rather than disappointment. He didn't cry. He wanted to. And he didn't. Because the Potter kitchen was loud and busy and crying and loud, busy kitchens felt exposed. And Neville's emotional expression was, like his magic, something that worked better in private. 4th year, the Triwizard Tournament, the tournament, was the event that broke the timeline away from canon for good. Barty Crouch Jr., disguised as Moody, entered Harry's name in the goblet. Not Neville's. The plan was Voldemort's. Use the son of prominent order members as the mechanism for the resurrection. Any wizard's blood would work for the ritual. The prophecy child wasn't necessary for the cauldron. Harry competed. Harry was good. James and Lily's son, trained by auras, competent in the way that parented children were competent, confident, prepared, able to draw on a foundation that had been built by people who loved him. Neville watched from the stands, watched Harry fight the dragon, watched Harry navigate the lake, watched Harry enter the maze. "He's better than me," Neville said. To Ron, in the stands, during the 3rd task. "At the tournament," Ron said. "He's better at the tournament. At magic." "He's better at combat magic," Ron said. "You're better at different things. Different things don't win Triwizard tournaments. Different things win different things," Ron said. "Tournaments aren't the only test. The cup was a portkey." Harry and Cedric grabbed it together. They disappeared. The stands went quiet. The crowd waited. Minutes passed. The waiting was wrong. The portkey should have returned them to the entrance. The minutes stretched. Neville's scar hurt. A sharp, sudden, blinding pain that dropped him to his knees in the stands. The pain was, he'd felt echoes of it before, headaches during nightmares, a twinge when he passed Quirrell in 1st year. But this was full volume, and the full volume said, "Something has happened. Something connected to the scar. Something connected to the person who gave it to him." Neville. Ron grabbed his arm. "What's wrong?" "He's back," Neville said. Through the pain. The knowledge arriving through the scar, through the Horcrux connection that Neville didn't understand yet, through the fragment of Voldemort's soul that was resonating with its maker's return. Voldemort, he's back. Harry appeared on the grass, holding the cup, holding Cedric. Both alive, different positioning in the graveyard, different reflexes, the 3 seconds that separated this timeline from the one where Cedric died. Harry was shaking. Harry was bleeding. Harry said, "He's back. Voldemort's back." And he wanted Neville. Not me. He called me the spare. Neville heard this standing in the crowd, his scar burning, his knees weak. The Dark Lord who had killed his parents had returned to the world, and the first thing the Dark Lord had said was Neville's name. He went to his dormitory. He sat on his bed. He did not come out for 3 hours. When he came out, he went to Harry. "He called you the spare," Neville said. "Yeah, I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry. Be ready." Ready for what? For whatever comes next, because it's coming for you, and I'm going to be standing next to you when it does. Lily's intervention in the summer after 4th year, Lily Potter visited Augusta Longbottom. The visit was about the wand. The visit had been about the wand for 4 years, but Lily had been waiting for the right moment, and Voldemort's return made the right moment now. "Neville needs his own wand," Lily said. "Neville has Frank's wand. Frank's wand doesn't work for Neville. It fights him. Every spell is harder than it should be. He needs to try harder, Augusta." Lily's voice was measured. "Voldemort is back." He said Neville's name, and Neville is carrying a wand that undercuts every spell he casts. Augusta was quiet. "I'm not trying to erase Frank," Lily said. "I'm trying to protect Neville. Voldemort is coming for your grandson, and your grandson is handicapped by a piece of wood that won't cooperate with his magic." "Don't tell me what Alice would want," Augusta said. The sentence was sharp. "You're right," Lily said. I shouldn't have." They sat in Augusta's parlour. 2 women who had lost something circling the same problem from opposite sides. "The wand doesn't work for him," Augusta said. Finally, "No, it doesn't." Then he goes to Ollivander's. "But Frank's wand stays in the family." "Of course. And you don't tell him I agreed easily." "There was nothing easy about this," Lily said. "The wand chooses Ollivander's." August, before 5th year. Cherrywood. Unicorn hair. 13 inches. The wand warmed in Neville's hand. It said yes, not through words, but through the feeling of an instrument that fit. He'd been using the wrong wand for 4 years, and the wrongness had become so normal that the rightness was disorienting. "This one," Neville said. "Excellent wood for those with latent capability," Ollivander said. His first spell with the cherry wand was a shield charm. Clean, strong, correctly angled. The charm that had been weak and flickering for 4 years was solid. "That's a 6th year level shield charm," Harry said, watching in the back garden. Neville held the wand. His wand. Not Frank's. His? He kept Frank's old wand in a box in his room. He did not explain why to anyone. 5th year, Umbridge arrived. The pink cardigan, the kitten plates, the educational decrees. Neville received detention in the 2nd week. The blood quill. "I must not tell lies about the return of he who must not be named," he wrote. The blood appeared on his hand. The words cut. "You're not reacting," Umbridge said after 2 hours. "I'm writing." "You're supposed to be learning that disobedience has consequences." "I already knew that. My grandmother taught me." Umbridge's expression tightened. Neville hadn't been trying to be defiant. He'd been honest. Sometimes honesty was worse. The Da Hermione organised the Da. Harry taught the combat magic. Harry, whose aura parents had given him the training that Neville's dead parents couldn't provide. The room of requirement. Tuesday and Thursday evenings. 28 students learning the defense that the ministry was denying them. Neville attended every session. With the cherry wand, the transformation was visible. Not overnight, not dramatic, but session by session, the gap between Neville's capability and his classmates closed. Your stunning spell's improved, Harry said. December, still not as strong as yours. It doesn't need to be as strong as mine. It needs to hit what you're aiming at. It hits what I aim at now, Neville said. 4 years of aiming at things and hitting the wall. Now the spells go where I point them. Was it really 4 years? Harry said. 4 years of casting through a wand that didn't want me, Neville said. Do you know what that's like? Every spell is a negotiation. Every charm is a fight. You spend more energy convincing the wand to cooperate than you spend on the actual magic. And now? Now the wand cooperates. And it turns out I'm not as bad at this as everyone thought. Nobody thought you were bad, Harry said. Harry, Neville said. Everyone thought I was bad. The teachers were polite about it. The students weren't. I've spent 4 years being the worst caster in our year. You weren't the worst. I was the worst who was trying, Neville said. The ones who weren't trying didn't count. Harry didn't have a response to that. Harry had never been the worst at anything. Harry's parents had given him the foundation, and the foundation had given him the confidence, and the confidence had given him the results. Harry did not understand what it was like to try hard and fail publicly and continue trying. Well, Harry said, you're not the worst anymore. No, Neville said, I'm not. The Department of Mysteries June, the false vision, the trap. Neville went because the vision implied a threat connected to the prophecy, connected to the scar, connected to the thing that Voldemort wanted. Neville went because he was tired of waiting. The Hall of Prophecies, the shelves, the glass spheres. There, Neville said, pointing, the shelf with his name. SPT to APW BD Dark Lord and Neville Longbottom. He reached for the sphere. The sphere came free. Only the person a prophecy concerned could retrieve it. Don't give it to him, Harry said, wand out. Because the Death Eaters were already there, emerging from the shadows between the shelves. The fight broke out. The prophecy sphere shattered in the first exchange, knocked from Neville's hands, smashing on the floor. The physical record of the words that had defined his life, broken on stone. Neville watched the glass scatter and felt lighter for a second, before a curse took out the shelf above his head and the fighting resumed. The battle in the department was chaotic. Students against Death Eaters, improvisation against training, survival against intent. Neville fought with the cherry wand, and the spells went where he pointed them, and the going where he pointed was the difference between 5th year and every year before. He stunned Dolohov. Not cleanly, the stunner hit Dolohov's shoulder rather than his chest, a glancing blow that knocked the Death Eater off balance without dropping him. But the stunner connected, and the connecting was new, and the newness was the cherry wand doing what Frank's wand had refused to do for 4 years. The order arrived. Sirius, Tonks, Kingsley, Moody, the adults, the people who were supposed to fight these fights. Sirius dueled Bellatrix. The veil was in the room, the archway, the whispering curtain, different positioning, different dynamics. Sirius fought with the reckless, laughing, Sirius-grade combat style that was simultaneously brilliant and self-destructive. A curse caught his shoulder. He stumbled. He did not fall through the veil. Missed me, Sirius shouted. At Bellatrix. From the floor. Next time, Bellatrix said. There was no next time. Tonks dropped Bellatrix with a stunning spell from behind. Sirius walked out of the department limping. Alive, cursing Bellatrix. Complaining about the shoulder. That was too close, Lily said, at St. Mungo's, treating Sirius's shoulder. Close is what I do, Sirius said. Close is what nearly killed you, Lily said. Nearly is not actually, Sirius said. The margin was inches, Sirius. Inches are sufficient, Sirius said. I've been winning by inches since I was 12. You've been an idiot since you were 12, Lily said. The correlation is not a defense. 6th year, The Horcrux Dumbledore told Neville in October, "There is a fragment of Voldemort's soul attached to your scar." Neville went still. The stillness lasted a full minute. "How long have you known?" "Since the night your parents died." 15 years. "I was working on a solution." "Telling you without one would have been honest," Neville said. Dumbledore received this. "Yes, and I chose strategy over honesty, as I frequently do." "Is there a solution now?" "Partially, your mother's protection has been suppressing the fragment since infancy, containing it, limiting its influence. Severus and I have developed a potion to amplify the protection until it overwhelms the fragment. Snape is involved. Severus is the finest potions master alive. Snape is the person whose information killed my parents." Neville's voice was level, flat, the Neville flat that meant the emotion was running deep and the surface was the lid keeping it contained. "I've known since third year," Neville said. "The trial records. The prophecy was overheard by a spy. The spy was Snape, yes, and now the person who orphaned me is brewing the potion that removes a piece of Voldemort from my head. The irony is not lost on me." "It's not irony," Neville said. "I don't have a word for it." "Neither do I." The Horcrux extraction happened in March. The room of requirement. Snape brewed the potion. Dumbledore supervised. Hermione monitored the diagnostics. The process was agonizing. The fragment had been attached for 15 years, embedded in Neville's magical core, draining his power, weighing on his magic the way a stone pressed on a root. The potion amplified Alice's protection, and the protection pushed, and the fragment resisted, and the resistance felt like something being torn out of the foundation of who he was. Neville screamed. Once, the scream echoed in the room of requirement, and Snape's hands did not shake, and Dumbledore's face did not change, and Hermione's wand hand, monitoring the diagnostics, trembled but held. The fragment expelled. A dark, writhing thing, caught in Dumbledore's containment spell, destroyed by the sword of Gryffindor. Neville lay on the floor. "Sweating. It's gone," Hermione said. "Your readings are clean." "I know," Neville said. "I can feel it. Something that was always there. I thought it was just being me. Being heavy." "The Horcrux was draining your core," Hermione said. "Your magic has been operating at reduced capacity for 15 years. "Reduced," Neville said. "Your capabilities now, without the drain, your capabilities may be substantially greater than what you've experienced." "So the 4 years of bad casting were the wand and the Horcrux," Hermione said. 2 handicaps. Simultaneously, Neville lay on the floor and stared at the ceiling and processed the information that he had spent his entire life operating under 2 separate limitations: a wand that fought him, and a Horcrux that drained him, and that the worst caster in the year label had been the product of circumstance rather than ability. He did not feel vindicated. He felt tired, and something else that he didn't name, because naming it felt premature. Dumbledore died in June. The Tower, Snape, the Fall. The mechanism was the same: the unbreakable vow, the ring curse, the strategic sacrifice. Because the mechanism was about Draco and Snape and Dumbledore's dying, and none of those elements depended on who the boy who lived was. Neville was in the corridor when it happened. He heard the shouts. He ran to the base of the tower and saw the body on the grass, and the world rearranged itself around the absence. He did not cry at the funeral. He sat in the white chair by the lake and held his wand, the cherry wand, and watched the flames consume the marble tomb, and thought about the office, about the lemon drops on the desk, about the old man who had chosen strategy over honesty, and who had, despite the choosing, been the closest thing to a mentor that Neville had. Harry was beside him, Ron and Hermione behind, the 4 of them sitting in a row, watching the fire. "What happens now?" Neville said. We finish it, Harry said. The Horcruxes. The war. How? I don't know yet, Harry said, but we finish it. 7th year, the Resistance. Harry left Hogwarts to hunt Horcruxes. Ron and Hermione went with him because the hunt required combat, research, and the strategic mind that kept them from killing each other. Neville stayed. Who runs the Dar if I leave? Neville said. Ginny, Luna, they need someone the title sticks to. You're not a leader, Harry said. I know. But I'm the boy who lived. People follow the title even when they wouldn't follow the person. Harry looked at him. Something complicated crossed Harry's face, the recognition that Neville had found a use for the identity he'd spent 6 years resenting. Be careful, Harry said. I'll be here when you get back, Neville said. The Carrows arrived. Amicus taught dark arts. Alecto taught Muggle-born hatred. Both used the Cruciatus on students who resisted. Neville resisted on the first day, not through confrontation, through refusal. Amicus ordered the 7th years to practice the Cruciatus on detention students. Neville put his wand on the desk. I won't, Neville said. You'll practice or you'll receive, Amicus said. Then I'll receive, Neville said. The Cruciatus hit him in front of the class. The pain was, there was no metaphor for the Cruciatus. The Cruciatus was pain without a source, pain that came from everywhere, pain that the body couldn't localize or fight or endure because the body wasn't built to endure what the Cruciatus did. Neville fell. He shook. He made sounds that were not words. The curse lifted. Neville stood up. His legs buckled once. He stood again. Tomorrow, Amicus said, we practice again. Tomorrow, Neville said, I refuse again. The refusal became the pattern, not a dramatic, inspire the masses pattern, a small, daily, grinding pattern. Neville refused. Neville received. Neville stood up the next morning. The other students saw this, and some of them refused too. And the refusing spread the way water spread through cracks, not by force, but by availability. Why does he keep coming back? Amicus asked Alecto in November. Cruciate him harder. I have. 3 times this week. He shows up the next morning. The other students see it. Then make an example. He is the example. That's the problem. He takes it and comes back, and the first years see him and they think, if Longbottom can take it, then the Crucius isn't working, Alecto said. The Cruciatus is working, Amicus said. He shakes all night. I've had reports from the others in the dormitory. He shakes, and he doesn't sleep, and he shows up. In the room of requirement at night, Neville sat against the wall, shaking, the nerve damage accumulating, the body's memory of pain layering onto itself, each day's Cruciatus adding to the previous days, the total growing. You can't keep doing this, Ginny said. If I stop, the first years lose their only evidence that it's survivable. That's not evidence. That's you getting hurt. Sometimes those are the same, Neville stopped. Fought himself. No, you're right, they're not the same. But I don't have another option. You could hide in here, stay in the room, and then what? The Carrows win the idea that the boy who lived can be driven underground. The idea doesn't matter if you're... Ginny stopped too. She looked at the wall. Fine, but you eat breakfast first, every morning. Before you go out and get yourself tortured, you eat breakfast. Breakfast non-negotiable, Ginny said. You eat. Then you go be an idiot. That's what I've got, Ginny said. Breakfast and calling you an idiot. It's not much. It's breakfast, Neville said. Breakfast is something. He ate breakfast every morning, before the Carrows, before the refusal, before the curse. He sat in the room of requirement and ate whatever the room provided, and the eating was the only thing that felt normal, and the normal was necessary because everything else was pain. The Battle of Hogwarts, May 2nd, 1998. Harry returned. Horcruxes destroyed, all but the snake. Nagini has to die, Harry told Neville. She dies. Voldemort's mortal. How? The Sword of Gryffindor. Goblin made. It absorbed basilisk venom. And where's the sword? It presents itself to Gryffindors who need it. That's a gamble. It's what we've got. The battle began. The castle shaking. Spells arcing through corridors. The defenders, students, teachers, order members, holding the line against the Death Eaters. Neville fought. With the cherry wand, unburdened by the Horcrux, his magic was different. Cleaner, faster, the stunning spells hit. The shield charms held. The 15 years of operating under 2 handicaps had built a magical stamina that, now, unrestricted, produced a casting endurance that outmatched students who had never been handicapped. He didn't think about it. He cast, and moved, and cast again, and the casting was the training, and the moving was the instinct, and the combination was functional, not brilliant, not Harry level. Functional. The wall collapsed in the 7th floor corridor. The explosion threw Neville sideways. He hit the opposite wall. His ears rang. He tasted blood. Fred Weasley was under the rubble. Percy was pulling stones. George was there, arriving from the adjacent corridor. Fred. Neville cleared the rubble with a vanishing spell, the largest vanishing spell he'd ever cast, the cherry wand channeling the unburdened magic, the stones disappearing to reveal Fred underneath. Alive. Legs broken. Breathing. Get him to the Great Hall, Neville said. To Percy, to George. His legs. Carry him, Neville said. The healers are in the Great Hall. They carried Fred. Neville continued down the corridor. The battle continued. Voldemort's ultimatum came at midnight. The pause. The counting of the dead. Then, Voldemort in the courtyard. With Nagini. With the Death Eaters. Neville Longbottom, Voldemort said. Neville walked into the courtyard, bruised, bleeding, the Cruciatus tremor in his hands, the accumulated damage of a year of daily curses, visible in the shake that never fully stopped. You are not what I expected, Voldemort said. I get that a lot. Voldemort placed the sorting hat on Neville's head, set it alight. The flame, the pain, the burning. Inside the burning hat, something solid, metal, cool against his scalp despite the fire. He reached up. He pulled. The sword of Gryffindor came free in his hand. Nagini lunged. Neville swung. Not gracefully, with both hands, with his full weight behind it, with the mechanics of a person who had never trained with a sword and who compensated through commitment. The blade caught the snake behind the head. The cut was clean. The Horcrux died. Nagini's body fell in 2 pieces. Voldemort screamed. The scream was the same sound from the Longbottom nursery, the sound of a person losing something essential. The symmetry was accidental and complete. Harry stepped forward. Harry duelled Voldemort. The Elder Wand, the Expelliarmus, the rebounding curse. Voldemort fell. The Great Hall erupted. The war was over. Ron found Neville in the entrance hall, sitting against the wall, the bloody sword across his knees. All right? No. Yeah, me neither. Ron sat down next to him. He pulled a sandwich from his jacket pocket. Want a sandwich? Corned beef? Always corned beef. Neville ate the sandwich. Against the wall. With the sword. The sun was coming up. After the battle in Snape's quarters, among the personal effects there was a sealed envelope. N. Longbottom, the letter, Longbottom, I carried the prophecy. My information produced the choice. These are facts. The potion took 4 months. I accepted the assignment. Your mother was a better duelist than your father. Your grandmother dresses appallingly. Your potions work was never as poor as I indicated, SS. Neville read the letter twice. He put it in the box with Frank's old wand. The letter did not apologise, did not explain, acknowledged facts, insulted Augusta's hat, admitted that 6 years of potions marks had been deliberately depressed. It did not provide closure. Neville didn't expect it to. Snape was not a person who provided closure. Snape was a person who provided facts and left the interpretation to others. Neville's interpretation was, the man who orphaned me spent 16 years punishing himself for it by punishing me, and the closest he could come to acknowledging this was 3 sentences and an insult about a hat. It was not enough. It was what Snape had. Neville put the letter in the box and closed the lid. Augusta, I was wrong, Augusta said, in St. Mungo's, where Neville was being treated for nerve damage. About what? About the wand. About, she paused, about comparing you to your father. You were doing your best. My best was the wrong thing, Augusta said. I compared you to Frank because Frank was the only model I had. I didn't know another way. You could have asked what I needed, Neville said. The sentence landed between them. Augusta looked at her hands, the hands that had carried the handbag and polished the gravestones and measured a child against the dead for 17 years. Yes, Augusta said. I could have asked. I needed to be told I was enough, Neville said. Not enough like Dad, just enough. You drew the sword of Gryffindor, Augusta said. That's not what I mean. I know, Augusta said. You mean without the sword, without the war, without the scar. You wanted to be enough as Neville. Yes, I don't know if I can give you that, Augusta said. I don't know if I know how. I've been measuring for so long that I don't know how to stop. You could try, Neville said. I could try, Augusta agreed. I'll probably be terrible at it. That's all right, Neville said. I'm used to people being terrible at things and trying anyway. Is that a joke? Augusta said. It's the closest I get, Neville said. Augusta looked at him, at the 17-year-old with the nerve damage and the scar and Alice's face, at the grandson she had spent 17 years failing in a way that she was only now beginning to understand. Your mother would have known what to say, Augusta said. Probably, Neville said. I don't. I know, Gran, but I'm here, Augusta said. I'm here and I'm trying. Yeah, Neville said. You are. The greenhouse Neville taught herbology at Hogwarts for 30 years. His venomous tentacula was the largest in Britain. His mandrake colony was the healthiest in Europe. His devil's snare, for reasons he attributed to talking to it, mostly produced flowers, which was supposed to be impossible, and which Sprout in retirement came back 3 times to verify. How? Sprout said, looking at the flowers. I don't force them, Neville said. I give them what they need and let them decide. That's not a technique, Sprout said. No, Neville said. It's not. He taught 30 years of students. Some of them were brilliant. Some of them were terrible. Most of them were somewhere in the middle, which was where most people were. And the middle was the territory that Neville understood, because the middle was where he'd spent his entire life. Professor Longbottom, a first year, said, I can't make the lumos work. Show me. The student cast. The lumos was dim. That's fine, Neville said. It's dim. It's a start. How long until it's brighter? However long it takes. The student cast again. Slightly brighter. Better, Neville said. The scar faded over the years. Visible in certain lights, invisible in others. He kept Frank's old wand in a box on his desk, beside Snape's letter, beside the chocolate frog card of his mother that he'd kept since he was 7. The cherry wand was in his pocket, dirt under his fingernails. The greenhouse door open. Let us know what you'd like to see next. Additional scenes year 1. Potions and the cost of the wand cost Neville most in potions. Not because potions required complex wand work. Most potions work was hands-on, chopping and stirring and measuring. Because Snape watched, and Snape watching produced the anxiety that made Neville's hands shake, and shaking hands with Frank's wand produced results that ranged from mediocre to catastrophic. Your shrinking solution is, Snape looked into Neville's cauldron. The expression was the Snape expression, the flat line that preceded the incision. Orange. I think you added the rat spleen before the leech juice. Snape said, "The order matters. The order always matters. Were you not paying attention, or are you incapable of processing sequential instructions?" "I was paying attention," Neville said. "Then, you are incapable," Snape said, "which is consistent with my observations." Hermione at the next table opened her mouth. Harry put his hand on her arm. The hand said, "Don't." The don't said, "Snape will make it worse if you intervene." Hermione closed her mouth. The closing cost her something. Hermione's instinct to correct injustice was as powerful as any spell, and suppressing it produced the specific frustration that Hermione expressed by writing longer homework assignments. Snape's potions homework came back with marks that did not match the quality. This was not something Neville recognized. Neville assumed the marks were fair, assumed that his work was as poor as the marks suggested, assumed that the consistent acceptable minus grades reflected consistent acceptable minus capability. Hermione recognized it. "Your essay on the properties of Moonstone was better than mine," Hermione said. "November, the library." "It got an acceptable," Neville said. "My essay got an exceeds expectations," Hermione said. "And your analysis of the lunar cycle interaction was more thorough." "Maybe the writing was. I've compared them," Hermione said. Sentence by sentence. "Your essay is better. Your mark is lower." "Snape doesn't like me," Neville said. "Snape is grading you unfairly," Hermione said. "There's a difference between personal dislike and professional misconduct." "What am I supposed to do about it?" Neville said. "Complain to McGonagall?" Gran would say complaining is. Gran would say Longbottoms don't complain. "Longbottoms don't complain," Hermione repeated. "Is that a family policy?" "It's a Gran policy." "Gran policies are not laws of magic," Hermione said. "They're one woman's opinions expressed as universal truths." Neville looked at her. At Hermione, who was 12 and who had just summarized the central problem of his life in one sentence. "You're very good at that," Neville said. "Good at what?" "Saying the thing I can't say." "You could say it," Hermione said. "You just haven't had practice. Gran doesn't encourage practice in talking back." "Gran isn't here," Hermione said. Practice. Neville did not complain to McGonagall about Snape's marking. He did not confront Snape. He did, however, begin, quietly, in the privacy of his own head, to distinguish between Snape's assessment of his work and the work's actual quality. The distinguishing was small. The distinguishing was Hermione's gift. Year 1, the flying lesson, was the disaster. Neville's broom responded to his anxiety rather than his intent. The broom shot upward. Neville lost control. The broom carried him 40 feet above the grounds while Madame Hooch shouted instructions that Neville couldn't hear because the wind was roaring and his hands were sweating, and Frank's wand, in his pocket, was producing sparks that scorched the broom handle. He fell. The broom bucked, and Neville's grip failed, and the ground came up with the speed of a thing that did not care about the boy who live's reputation. He hit the grass at an angle. His wrist broke, a clean break, audible, the snap of bone. "Out of the way," Hooch said. Broken wrist. Hospital wing. Neville walked to the hospital wing holding his wrist. Harry walked with him. "Brooms are horrible," Neville said. "Brooms are brilliant," Harry said. "You just need practice." "I need to stay on the ground," Neville said. "The ground doesn't throw me off," The ground doesn't fly, Harry said. Exactly, Neville said. The ground is reliable. Harry laughed. Neville had not been trying to be funny. Neville's humour was accidental, the product of honest observations that happened to be amusing. The flying lesson produced two consequences. First, Neville was excused from future flying lessons on medical grounds. Second, Harry, who had chased Malfoy for Neville's remembrall during the incident, was recruited to the Gryffindor Quidditch team as Seeker. You got on the Quidditch team because of me, Neville said. I got on the Quidditch team because of Malfoy, Harry said. You got me the opportunity by falling off a broom, so my incompetence is your opportunity, Neville said. Your wrist break is my career, Harry said. I'll put it in my memoir. Year 2. The Valentine's Inn's second year, the Valentine's Day disaster happened. Lockhart, the fraudulent defence professor, the same preening incompetent in every timeline, organised the Valentine's dwarfs, surly dwarfs in nappies, delivering musical valentines throughout the school. Neville received one. The dwarf cornered him in the first floor corridor, between history of magic and lunch. The dwarf was 3 feet tall, wearing a golden nappy and a sour expression, carrying a small harp. Neville Longbottom? The dwarf said. Yes? Neville said. Got a musical message for you, the dwarf said, and sang. Singing was terrible. The song was worse. The words were something about eyes and scars and heroism, delivered in a gravelly baritone that suggested the dwarf would rather be anywhere else. Neville stood in the corridor while a dwarf serenaded him, and the entire passing crowd stopped to watch, and the watching was not the hero worship Neville had expected. The watching was amusement. The watching was the school enjoying the boy who lived, turning the colour of a tomato. Who sent it? Neville managed when the dwarf finished. Anonymous, the dwarf said. They always are. The dwarf waddled away. That was, Harry said. Don't, Neville said. Beautiful, Harry said. I said don't. Your eyes like fresh pickled toads, Ron quoted. From somewhere behind them. That's quality poetry, that is. I will hex both of you, Neville said. With which wand? Ron said. And then, immediately, sorry, that was mean. It was funny, Neville said. And mean. And funny. I'm sorry about the wand thing, Ron said. I didn't, Ron. It's fine. The Valentine was worse. The Valentine was magnificent, Harry said. I'm going to remember it forever. I'm going to hex you, Neville said, as soon as I find a wand that cooperates. The Valentine was never identified. Neville suspected Ginny. The suspicion was never confirmed. The Valentine joined the category of Hogwarts mysteries that were technically solvable but more entertaining unsolved. Year 2? Hermione's petrification when Hermione was petrified, Neville went to the greenhouse. Not to grieve, to work. The mandrake colony that Sprout was growing for the restorative drought needed tending, and the tending was the contribution Neville could make, and the contribution was the alternative to sitting in the hospital wing, watching his petrified friend and feeling useless. He went every evening, after dinner, after homework, from 7 to 9. The mandrakes responded to him, grew faster, grew stronger, matured ahead of schedule. Not through magic, through attention, through the consistent, daily, 2 hours every evening attention of a person who understood that growing things needed time and presence. You're here again, Sprout said. February, finding Neville in the greenhouse at 8 p.m. The number 4 mandrake is lagging, Neville said. The soil pH is wrong. The soil pH is fine, Sprout said. Standard mix. Standard mix is wrong for this one, Neville said. This one needs more acidity. 0.5 point. Sprout checked. Neville was right. How did you know? Sprout said. The leaves told me, Neville said. And then, seeing her expression, not literally, the leaf colour, the curl. The leaves are slightly too yellow for the growth stage. Yellow at this stage means alkaline soil. That's a diagnostic observation that NEW students struggle with, Sprout said. It's obvious, Neville said. If you look. Most people don't look, Sprout said. I look at plants, Neville said. I've always looked at plants. Your mother was the same, Sprout said. Alice could read a leaf the way other people read a newspaper. People keep telling me about Mum, Neville said. About her plants, her garden. Does that bother you? Sprout said. It's the only comparison that doesn't hurt, Neville said. Sprout didn't respond. She handed Neville the watering can and watched him adjust the pH on the number 4 mandrake and recognised in the 12-year-old's hands the echo of a woman who had been Sprout's best student 20 years ago. Year 3. The Patronus Lupin taught the Patronus charm to the DAR members who were advanced enough. In the other timeline, Harry had learned it. In this timeline, Lupin taught several students, including Harry and Neville. Harry's Patronus emerged on the second attempt. A stag, James's animagus form, the inheritance of the father who was alive and present, and whose love was current rather than historical. Brilliant, Lupin said. Neville's Patronus took 3 weeks. Not because Neville lacked the power. With Frank's wand, the power was there, but the channel was wrong. The Patronus charm required clear, focused joy, and joy through a resistant wand was joy filtered through static. Think of the happiest memory you have, Lupin said. Neville thought. The happiest memory he had was, he searched, the summers at the Potter's house. The sandwich on the train. The moment in the greenhouse when Sprout said his mother was the same. Expecto Patronum. He cast. The wand flickered. Silver mist, shapeless, dissolving. Not enough power, Lupin said. Not enough wand, Neville said. What do you mean? The memory is right. The intent is right. The wand won't channel it properly. The wand, my father's wand, Neville said. It doesn't, Professor. I've been telling people for 2 years. The wand doesn't cooperate. Lupin looked at Neville. At this 13-year-old who had just identified, with clinical accuracy, the technical problem that was preventing a major spell from functioning. The identification was not emotional. The identification was diagnostic. The same diagnostic capability that had spotted the mandrake's soil pH. Can you borrow a wand? Lupin said. Neville looked at him. Nobody had ever suggested this. The idea that the problem could be solved by simple substitution had not occurred. The wand was Dad's, the wand was the legacy, and the legacy was not the kind of thing you set aside. I can try Harry's, Neville said. He tried Harry's wand. Holly and Phoenix Feather. The wand was not his, but the wand was not actively resistant. And the difference between not his and actively resistant was the difference between a spell that didn't work and a spell that might. Expecto Patronum. Silver mist erupted from the wand, not a formed Patronus, not the full animal shape, but corporeal. Tangible, real, the silver filled the classroom and the coldness of the practice Dementor retreated and Lupin said, yes, that's it, hold it. The mist lasted 8 seconds before it dissolved. Neville gave Harry's wand back. With a compatible wand you can produce a corporeal mist, Lupin said. With your own wand, a wand that chose you, you could almost certainly produce a full Patronus. I don't have my own wand, Neville said. I know, Lupin said, and didn't say anything else. Because the wand situation was a family situation, and family situations were the territory where professors feared to tread. The Patronus conversation was one of the things Neville carried to the summer, and to the conversation he did not have with Augusta, and to the year after that, and to the summer after 4th year, when Lily Potter finally said the things that Neville could not say, and Augusta finally heard them. Year 4, watching from the stands the Triwizard Tournament, was the longest year of Neville's life, and he didn't compete. The year was long because the year was about watching watching Harry compete, watching Harry succeed, watching Harry do the things that the boy who lived should have been doing, and doing them with the ease and competence that parented, properly wanded children possessed. "He's good," Neville said to Ron. During the first task. Watching Harry outfly the horntail. "He's Harry," Ron said. "Harry's always good at stuff. He's good at stuff because his parents taught him to be good at stuff," Neville said. "Are you jealous?" Ron said. "No," Neville said. "Then, yes. A bit." "That's fair," Ron said. "I'd be jealous too." "You're not jealous?" Neville said. "I'm jealous of everyone," Ron said. "Harry's got parents. You've got fame. Hermione's got brains. I've got sandwiches. Sandwiches aren't bad," Neville said. "Sandwiches are underrated," Ron said. "But sandwiches don't win Triwizard tournaments." "Neither do I," Neville said. "You weren't entered," Ron said. "If I'd been entered," Neville said, "with Dad's wand, against a dragon, I'd have been." "You'd have found a way," Ron said. "You always find a way." "I find a way because other people help me find it," Neville said. "That's a way," Ron said. "Not a glamorous way, but a way." The second task required rescuing someone from the bottom of the lake. Harry's person was Ron. Cedric's was Cho. Fleur's was Gabrielle. Neville watched from the shore and thought about who they would have used for him if he'd been the champion. Who was the person he'd miss most? Gran? Harry? Hermione? He thought about it for a long time and concluded the answer was probably Trevor, which was pathetic and also accurate and also slightly funny. Would they kidnap a toad? Neville asked Hermione. What? For the second task. Would they put a toad at the bottom of the lake? I think they use people, Hermione said. What if my person is a toad? Neville said. Then your toad would be an excellent company, Hermione said. Merpeople are very respectful of amphibians. You made that up, Neville said. I absolutely made that up, Hermione said. But it made you smile. It did, Neville said. Thanks, Year 5, the Dar, Neville's session in February of 5th year, Harry was sick. Flu, the regular, mundane, non-magical flu that Pepper-Up Potion hadn't fully addressed. Someone needs to run the session tonight, Harry told Neville. In the dormitory. Voice raspy. You're asking me? Neville said. You're the second most experienced member, Harry said. Hermione's more experienced. Hermione would turn it into a lecture, Harry said. I need someone who'll do practical work. I'm not a teacher, Neville said. Neither am I, Harry said. I just show people what to do and tell them when they're doing it wrong. That's literally what a teacher is, Neville said. Then you can do it, Harry said, for one session. Neville ran the session. 23 students in the room of requirement. The cherry wand in his hand. The lesson plan on a piece of parchment. Tonight we're practicing shield charms, Neville said. Speak up, someone said from the back. Tonight we're practicing shield charms, Neville said. A bit loud, the same person said. I'm finding the middle, Neville said. The session was adequate, not brilliant. Neville's teaching style was different from Harry's, slower, more patient, more willing to stand beside a struggling student and adjust their wand angle personally rather than demonstrating from the front. Your wrist is too stiff, Neville told a third year, touching the student's arm. Adjusting the angle. The shield charm needs flexibility. Think of it as a plant bending in wind rather than a wall standing against wind. A plant? The student said. Walls break, Neville said. Plants bend and spring back. That's a weird way to think about it, the student said. It's my way, Neville said. Try it, the student tried. The shield charm improved, more flexible, more resilient, the shield absorbing the practice spell rather than shattering against it. That worked, the student said. Surprised. Bending works, Neville said. After the session, Hermione said, "You taught them differently than Harry." "I taught them worse," Neville said. "You taught them differently," Hermione said. "Harry teaches combat. You teach adaptation." "Because I've spent 5 years adapting to a wand that didn't work," Neville said. "Because you understand what it's like to struggle with the basics," Hermione said. "And the students who struggle need that understanding more than they need technique. Harry's technique is better. Harry's technique is better for students who learn quickly," Hermione said. "Your understanding is better for students who don't." Neville ran 2 more sessions while Harry recovered. The sessions were not better than Harry's. They were different. The difference was, the students who had been falling behind in Harry's sessions made progress in Neville's. Year 5. The Department of Mysteries extended the battle in the Department of Mysteries was the first real combat Neville had experienced. The training sessions, the practice duels, the Tuesday evenings with Flitwick had prepared him for the mechanics. The mechanics were cast, shield, move, cast again. The mechanics were learnable, and Neville had learnt them. What the training had not prepared him for was the fear. The real combat grade, people are trying to kill you fear that was different from practice fear, the way a real fire was different from a candle. Stupefy. Neville cast at Dolohov. The spell hit Dolohov's shoulder, glancing, not clean, not enough to drop him. Dolohov staggered and turned, and Dolohov's wand came up, and Neville felt the front of his robes tear as a purple curse missed his chest by inches. "Move!" Hermione shouted. From somewhere to his left, Neville moved. Behind a shelf, behind glass prophecies that rattled with the impact of spells hitting the adjacent shelving, the glass shattered around him, and the prophecies inside, the recorded futures of people he'd never meet, spilled out in silver mist. Impedimenta. Neville cast around the shelf. The spell connected, caught a Death Eater in the legs. The Death Eater fell. "Nice one," Ron shouted, from 3 shelves over. I was aiming for his head. Neville shouted back. Legs work too. The fighting continued. Neville's casting was functional. The cherry wand channeled the spells cleanly. The spells went where he pointed them. The pointing was not always accurate, but was always in the correct general direction. He was not Harry. Harry moved through the battle like someone who had been raised by combat professionals, smooth transitions between offense and defense, the instinctive awareness of positioning that came from years of aura parent instruction. Harry's combat was fluid. Neville's combat was determined, less graceful, more committed. The commitment of a person who didn't know the right move and who compensated by refusing to stop moving. Bellatrix Lestrange found him. In the death chamber, the room with the veil, the room where the whispers came from the archway. The Longbottom boy, Bellatrix said. Sing-song. Playful, the playfulness of a person who enjoyed violence the way other people enjoyed music. The little baby who killed my master. I was 15 months old, Neville said. His wand up. His hand shaking, not from fear, from the adrenaline. From the sustained casting, from the 40 minutes of combat that had depleted his reserves. "Ah," Bellatrix said. "The baby is tired." "The baby can still cast," Neville said. "Can it?" Bellatrix raised her wand. "Let's see. Crucio." Neville's shield charm caught the curse. The shield held, barely, the edges flickering, the force of Bellatrix's casting straining the cherry wand's limits. But the shield held. Bellatrix's expression changed. The playfulness dimming. The assessment of a professional recognizing that the target was more capable than expected. "The baby has a shield," Bellatrix said. "The baby has a wand that works," Neville said. Finally, Bellatrix attacked again. Neville shielded, dodged, cast back, a stunner that Bellatrix deflected contemptuously. The exchange was not equal. Bellatrix was one of the most dangerous duelists alive. Neville was a 15-year-old with 5 months of proper wand experience. The exchange lasted 90 seconds. 90 seconds of Neville surviving against Bellatrix Lestrange, not winning, not matching her, surviving, shielding, dodging, using the room's architecture the way Flitwick had taught him, putting pillars and arches between himself and Bellatrix's curses. Sirius arrived. Sirius engaged Bellatrix. The duel shifted, Neville disengaged, moved to cover, watched the two black cousins fight with the vicious family grudge intensity that defined their confrontations. Sirius stumbled near the veil. Neville grabbed his arm. The grab was reflexive, the grab of a person who saw someone falling and who reached without calculating. Sirius's momentum carried them both sideways, away from the archway, onto the floor. "Thanks," Sirius said. "From the floor." "Don't mention it," Neville said. "Also on the floor." "The veil, I noticed," Neville said. Tonks dropped Bellatrix with a stunner. The immediate danger passed. Neville sat on the floor of the death chamber and shook. The shaking was the aftermath, the body's response to 90 seconds of combat against a Death Eater who could have killed him at any point. "You duelled Bellatrix Lestrange," Harry said, finding him afterward. "I survived Bellatrix Lestrange," Neville said. "There's a difference." "You survived for 90 seconds, Harry said, "against Bellatrix. Don't say impressive," Neville said. "I was terrified the entire time." 90 seconds of terrified surviving against Bellatrix, Harry said. "I'm absolutely saying impressive." "I was mostly hiding behind pillars," Neville said. "Tactical use of cover," Harry said. "Flitwick would approve." "Flitwick would say my stance was wrong," Neville said. "Flitwick would say your stance was wrong and your survival was commendable," Harry said. "Both things." Year 6. After the extraction, the weeks after the Horcrux extraction were strange. Neville's magic was different. Not dramatically, subtly, the spells were easier, the casting less effortful. The cherry wand, which had already been a better match than Frank's, now responded with a fluency that Neville had never experienced. "Your stunning spell is significantly stronger," Harry noted. In a practice session. April. "I know," Neville said. "How much of your capability was the Horcrux suppressing?" Harry said. "Hermione ran the numbers," Neville said. "She estimates 15 to 20% of my core was being drained." 15 to 20, Harry stopped. "You've been casting at 80% power your entire life." "At best," Neville said. "Before the cherry wand, it was 80% through a resistant channel, so you were operating at, 60%? "Hermione says 60 to 65, Neville said, "with the one resistance and the Horcrux drain combined." 65%, Harry said. "And you still made it through 5 years of school." "With a lot of extra practice," Neville said. "With a lot of extra practice at 65%, Harry said. "Neville, at full capability I'm still not you," Neville said. "I didn't say you were me," Harry said. "I said you've spent 5 years training at 65%. Athletes who train with weights and then remove them, I know the analogy," Neville said. "Then you know what it means," Harry said. Neville knew what it meant. The years of operating under 2 handicaps had built a magical stamina, a tolerance for difficulty, a capability for sustained effort, that was. Now that the handicaps were removed, producing results that exceeded what raw talent alone would have produced. He was still not the strongest caster in the year, he was still not Harry. But he was capable. Genuinely, functionally, without qualification capable. And the capable was new, and the newness was disorienting in the way that any fundamental change was disorienting. "I don't know what to do with this," Neville told Hermione. "In the library." "With what?" "With being able to do things properly. I've spent 5 years being the one who can't, the one who needs help, the one whose spells go wrong. And now the spells go right and I don't. You don't know who you are without the handicap, Hermione said. That's a very clinical way to put it, Neville said. I'm a very clinical person, Hermione said. The answer is, you're the same person. The handicap didn't make you. The handicap limited you. Removing it doesn't change who you are. It changes what you can do. Is there a difference? Neville said. The difference is everything, Hermione said. Who you are is the boy who spent 5 years trying with a bad wand and a Horcrux on his soul. What you can do is the result of removing the obstacles. The trying made you. The capability is the dividend. Dividend, Neville said. You're using financial metaphors. The metaphor is apt, Hermione said. You invested 5 years of effort into a compromised system. The investment doesn't disappear when the system is repaired. The investment compounds. I've compounded, Neville said. You've compounded, Hermione confirmed. Congratulations, it's going to be very annoying for the rest of us. Year 7. The room of requirement became a home. Not metaphorically, literally, by October of 7th year, the room had expanded to accommodate 30 students who were hiding from the Carrows. The room provided beds, food, bathrooms, the infrastructure of a community that was living underground while the school above them fell to occupation. Neville ran it. Not because Neville was a natural leader, because Neville was the one who wouldn't leave. You could go, Seamus said. November, in the room. Your Gran would take you out of school. Gran would take me and I'd be safe and the people in this room wouldn't be, Neville said. You can't save everyone, Seamus said. I'm not trying to save everyone, Neville said. I'm trying to be here. What good is being here? Seamus said. I don't know, Neville said. But being somewhere else is worse. The room provided what it could. Hammocks, initially, then proper beds as the number of residents grew. Food appeared. Not feasts, but adequate meals. The room's limits were apparent. The food was basic. The space was finite. The magic required to maintain the sanctuary was. Neville could feel it. The way he felt plants' needs, straining. The room is getting tired, Neville told Luna. Rooms don't get tired, Luna said. This room does, Neville said. The magic that runs it, the castle's magic, it's being drawn on by the Carrows too. The dark arts lessons, the wards they've placed, the castle is being pulled in 2 directions. You can feel the castle's magic? Luna said. I can feel something, Neville said. In the walls? In the floor. It's like a plant that's not getting enough water. The leaves are wilting. The castle is a plant, Luna said. The castle is a living magical structure, Neville said, and the Carrows are poisoning it. That's actually a reasonable theory, Luna said. I was going to suggest Raxperts, but yours is better. Neville ran the room with the skills he had, not leadership skills, not strategic skills, herbology skills. The skills of tending, providing what was needed, monitoring health, adjusting conditions. He treated the room's occupants how he treated his plants, with attention, with consistency, with the awareness that living things needed care, and that care required presence. You're here every morning, Ginny said. February, I'm always here, Neville said. You never leave the room. I leave for the Carrows, Neville said. You leave to get tortured and come back to tend the community, Ginny said. Somebody has to, Neville said. Does it have to be you? Ginny said. It's my room, Neville said. I asked for it. I maintain it. If I leave, the room is a room, Neville. It'll be here without you. The people won't, Neville said. The people need someone to organise the food and assign the beds and make sure the first years do their homework. You're making them do homework, Ginny said. We're still at school, Neville said. The education continues even if the school doesn't. That's very McGonagall of you, Ginny said. I'll take that, Neville said. The battle, extended sequences the battle's first hour, was defence. The castle's wards, already weakened by the Carrow's dark magic, fell faster than expected. The Death Eaters breached the grounds. The fighting moved inside. Neville's position was the 7th floor corridor, the corridor nearest the room of requirement, the corridor he'd been walking for a year, the territory he knew better than any other part of the castle. They're coming up the east staircase, a 6th year shouted. Neville cast a sealing charm on the corridor entrance. The cherry wand pulsed, the charm was powerful, drawing on the full, unburdened core, the seal materializing across the corridor mouth like a wall of gold light. That'll hold for, Neville calculated. Maybe 10 minutes. We need to barricade the secondary entrance. With what? The 6th year said. With everything, Neville said. Desks, suits of armour, anything that's not bolted down. They barricaded. The fighting was the ugly, undramatic, moving furniture under fire version of warfare that nobody wrote songs about. Neville levitated a desk into the doorway while a curse hit the wall 6 inches from his head. A 5th year dragged a suit of armour into position while the corridor floor shook from explosions 3 floors below. The seal's breaking. Someone shouted. The seal broke. The Death Eaters poured through. The barricade held for 30 seconds. Then, a blasting curse took out the desk, and the armour fell, and the corridor was open. Neville fought, hand to hand, spell to spell, the claustrophobic, can't see more than 10 feet combat that happened in corridors. The cherry wand casting cleanly, shield charms, stunners, the impediment jinx that Flitwick had drilled into him. He dropped 2 Death Eaters in the corridor. Stunned both of them, clean hits, centre mass, the spells connecting with the precision that the cherry wand provided and that Frank's wand had denied him for 4 years. A 3rd Death Eater rounded the corner. Neville's shield charm caught the curse. The shield held. Neville countercast. Expelliarmus, the disarming charm that was basic and effective, and that Neville used because basic and effective was his register. The Death Eater's wand flew. The Death Eater went down. 3 in a corridor, Harry said, finding Neville between waves. Not bad. Not good either, Neville said. The 3rd one nearly got me. The 3rd one didn't get you, Harry said. That's the relevant part. The battle continued, hours of it. The castle breaking around them, walls collapsing, staircases shifting, the ancient magic of Hogwarts fighting alongside the defenders in a way that Neville could feel in his teeth. The wall in the 7th floor corridor collapsed at 2 a.m. The explosion threw Neville sideways. He hit the opposite wall. His vision greyed. His ears rang. Fred Weasley was under the rubble, Percy pulling stones, George arriving. Neville cleared the rubble. The vanishing spell, the largest he'd ever cast, the cherry wand channeling his full unburdened core. The stones vanished. Fred was underneath, breathing, legs broken. Alive! Get him to the Great Hall, Neville said. They carried Fred. Neville continued down the corridor he'd walked for a year. The corridor he knew. The courtyard Voldemort's ultimatum. The pause. The dead counted, too many names, too many faces, the catalogue of loss that the war had exacted. Then, Voldemort in the courtyard. Nagini coiled around his shoulders. Neville Longbottom. Neville walked into the courtyard. His legs worked. His hands shook. The Cruciatus tremor, the year of daily curses. The accumulation. But his legs worked, and the working was sufficient. You are not what I expected, Voldemort said. I get that a lot. I expected the son of auras, Voldemort said. I see a boy who tends plants. Plants are underrated, Neville said. The sentence was not brave. The sentence was, it was what came out. The honest, unstrategic, completely Neville thing. Voldemort placed the sorting hat on Neville's head, set it alight. The fire, the burning, the pain running down Neville's face, across his forehead over the scar. Inside the burning hat, metal against his scalp. Cool, solid, he reached up, both hands. Pulled, the sword of Gryffindor came free. Nagini lunged. Neville swung. The cut was clean. The sword, goblin-made, basilisk venom laced, severed the snake's head. The Horcrux died. Voldemort screamed, the same scream from the nursery 17 years ago, the sound of a Dark Lord losing something essential. Neville dropped to his knees. The hat was still burning. He pulled it off, threw it on the ground, patted his hair, which was smoking. "Ow!" Neville said. To nobody. To the courtyard, to the dead snake and the burning hat and the sword in his hand. Ow! The battle resumed around him. People were running, spells were flying. The moment, the snake, the sword, the hat was consumed by the chaos. Neville stood up, put out his hair, picked up the sword, went back to fighting. Harry duelled Voldemort in the Great Hall. The Elder Wand, the Expelliarmus, the rebounding curse. Voldemort fell. Ron found Neville in the entrance hall. Against the wall, sword across his knees. All right? No, yeah, me neither. Ron sat, pulled a sandwich from his pocket. Corned beef? Always. Neville ate the sandwich. The sun came up. The war was over. After the Battlesnake's letter was found in his quarters. Sealed envelope. N. Longbottom, Longbottom, I carried the prophecy. My information produced the choice. These are facts. The potion took 4 months. I accepted the assignment. Your mother was a better duelist than your father. Your grandmother dresses appallingly. Your potion's work was never as poor as I indicated. S. S. Neville read it twice. Put it in the box with Frank's old wand. The letter did not apologize. Did not explain. Acknowledged facts. Insulted Augusta's hat. Admitted that 6 years of potions marks had been deliberately depressed. Neville's interpretation was his own and he kept it private. Augusta at St. Mungo's. I was wrong, Augusta said, about the wand, about comparing you to your father. You were doing your best. My best was the wrong thing. Augusta paused. I should have seen you, instead of Frank's absence. You see me now, Neville said. I see the sword, Augusta said. Which is not the same. No, it's not. They sat, grandmother and grandson. The honesty between them was new and uncomfortable and did not resolve 17 years. I don't know how to stop measuring, Augusta said. You could try, Neville said. I'll probably be terrible at it. That's all right, Neville said. I'm used to people being terrible at things and trying anyway. Augusta looked at him, at Alice's face, at the grandson she'd spent 17 years failing. Your mother would have known what to say, Augusta said. Probably, I don't. I know, Gran, but I'm here. Yeah, Neville said. You are. The greenhouse Neville taught herbology at Hogwarts for 30 years. His venomous tentacula was the largest in Britain. His mandrake colony was the healthiest in Europe. His devil's snare produced flowers, which was supposed to be impossible and which Sprout, in retirement, came back 3 times to verify. How? Sprout said. I don't force them, Neville said. I give them what they need and let them decide. He taught 30 years of students. Most of them were somewhere in the middle, which was the territory Neville understood because the middle was where he'd spent his life. Professor Longbottom, a first year, said, I can't make the Lumos work. Show me. The student cast. The Lumos was dim. That's fine. It's dim. It's a start. How long until it's brighter? However long it takes. The student cast again. Slightly brighter. Better, Neville said. The scar faded over the years, visible in certain lights, invisible in others. He kept Frank's old wand in a box on his desk, beside Snape's letter, beside the chocolate frog card of his mother. The cherry wand was in his pocket, dirt under his fingernails, the greenhouse door open. Let us know what you'd like to see next. Final scenes Year 3. The Dementor on the train the Dementors boarded the Hogwarts Express in September of Neville's 3rd year. The same reason, Sirius had not escaped Azkaban in this timeline, but the Ministry, responding to a different security concern, had stationed Dementors at Hogwarts to guard against a reported Death Eater breakout attempt from Azkaban. The Dementor entered the compartment where Neville sat with Harry, Ron, and Hermione. The cold came first, the draining, marrow-deep cold that was not temperature but absence. The absence of warmth, of memory, of everything that made the world bearable. Harry felt the cold. Harry shivered. Harry gripped the armrest and his face went pale and his jaw clenched, but Harry did not collapse, because Harry's worst memories, the memories the Dementors fed on, were ordinary childhood things. Arguments with his parents. The time James took the broom away. The normal, small-scale unhappiness of a child who was loved. Neville collapsed. The Dementor found what Dementors always found. The worst memories. The deepest pain. And Neville's worst memories were Augusta's voice saying disappointing. The empty chair at the kitchen table where a father should sit. The grave in the churchyard. The vulture hat and the comparisons and the 10 years of not enough. The Dementor fed, and Neville went grey and then white, and then he was on the floor of the compartment with his eyes rolled back and the cold eating him from the inside. Lupin, who was in the adjacent compartment, already the new defence professor, entered, silver light. A wolf-shaped Patronus that drove the Dementor out. Neville came back to himself on the compartment floor with chocolate in his hand and 4 worried faces above him. "You fainted," Ron said. Helpful as ever. "I noticed," Neville said. "The Dementor targeted you specifically," Hermione said. "They're drawn to people with significant emotional pain." "Thanks, Hermione. Very comforting." "I'm not trying to be comforting. I'm trying to understand why you collapsed when Harry didn't. Because Harry's worst memory is losing his broom privileges," Ron said. "My worst memory is Mum's cooking," Harry said. Then, seeing Neville's face, "Sorry. Bad timing. It's fine," Neville said, and ate the chocolate, and did not discuss what the Dementor had shown him, which was nothing. The Dementor had shown him an absence. The absence of the parents he'd never known, the absence of a childhood he'd never had, the absence of the person who should have been proud of him instead of the person who measured him against the dead. The absence was worse than a memory. A memory could be confronted. An absence could only be carried. Year 3. Christmas at the Potter's the Potter Christmas of 3rd year was the Christmas that Sirius told Neville about Alice. The kitchen. After dinner. The adults drinking wine, tea, and fire whiskey. Neville was supposed to be upstairs with Harry, but Neville had come down for water and had lingered in the doorway because the conversation had turned to the war, and the war always meant his parents. "Alice hexed Mulciber in the face during the Hogsmeade attack," Sirius said. 1979, the Death Eaters hit the village, and Alice was the first person to start casting. Not Frank, Alice. Frank was 3 steps behind her. Alice was always faster, Lily said. Alice was faster, more accurate, and meaner, Sirius said. Mean in the good way. The way where you don't cast stunners at people who are trying to kill you. You cast things that put them down and keep them down. What did she cast at Mulciber? James said. A reductor curse that took out his kneecap, Sirius said, through his shield. He punched through a full shield charm with a reductor. That's extremely advanced combat casting, Lily said. That's Alice, Sirius said. Quiet until the hex started flying. Then she was the person you wanted on your side, the person who ended fights rather than escalating them. Neville stood in the doorway, listening, hearing his mother described by people who had fought beside her, not as a name on a gravestone, not as Augusta's curated memorial, but as a person. A person who hexed Death Eaters and punched through shield charms and was faster than her Auror husband. She was in my dormitory at Hogwarts, Lily said. 1st year through 7th. She was neat. Everything in order. Her side of the room was spotless. Mine looked like a bomb had hit it. Alice ironed her socks, Sirius said. She ironed her socks, Neville said, from the doorway, his voice small. 3 adults turned to look at him. The looking carried the weight of the realization that the child had been listening, that the child was hearing things about his mother that the child's grandmother had never told him. She ironed everything, Lily said, including socks. She said wrinkled socks were the beginning of a disordered life. That sounds like Gran, Neville said. That sounds like Alice being funny, Lily said. Alice said things like that, and people thought she was serious, and she wasn't. She was joking. She had this completely straight face when she joked. You couldn't tell. Deadpan, Sirius said. Alice had the best deadpan in the Order. She'd say something completely insane. I think we should attack the Death Eater base through the sewers, and everyone would start planning it before they realised she was taking the mick. Through the sewers? Neville said. She was joking, Sirius said. We did not attack through the sewers. Although, James said. In retrospect, the sewer approach might have worked, James, Lily said. Strategically speaking, James. I'm just saying Alice might have been onto something, James, Neville laughed. At the kitchen table. At midnight. At the Potter Christmas. Laughing at the story of his mother's deadpan humour and the sewer strategy and James Potter's inability to stop analysing combat scenarios. The laughing was what he took from that Christmas. Not the stories about Alice's combat prowess. Augusta had given him those, in her version, filtered through legacy and expectation. The thing he took was, Alice was funny. Alice joked. Alice ironed her socks and said insane things with a straight face, and people loved her, not because she was an Auror, but because she was a person who made people laugh. Nobody had told Neville that his mother was funny. Nobody had thought to mention it. The humour was not the kind of quality that appeared on gravestones or in Augusta's litany of Longbottom achievements. The humour was human. The humour was the part of Alice that Neville had been denied by the people who tried to turn her into a legend rather than a person. He went upstairs. Harry was asleep. Neville lay on the camp bed and looked at the ceiling and thought about his mother ironing socks with a straight face, and the thinking was warm. Year 4. After the graveyard, the weeks after the graveyard, after Harry returned with Cedric, after Voldemort's return was confirmed, after the world changed, were the weeks that Neville understood what the prophecy meant. Not the words. He'd heard the words, or versions of them, since he was old to understand the story of the boy who lived. The words were abstract. Born as the 7th month dies, marked as his equal, neither can live while the other survives. The meaning was concrete. A person was going to try to kill him. Not in the abstract, not in the future, not in the theoretical way that prophecies usually operated. A person was going to try to kill him, and the person was the most dangerous wizard in the world, and the person had said Neville's name in a graveyard. The meaning produced, not fear exactly, something more exhausting than fear. The continuous, low-grade, every waking moment awareness that his life had an expiration condition, that somewhere someone was working toward the fulfillment of a prophecy that required one of them to die. You've been quiet, Hermione said. On the train home. June, I've been thinking. About the prophecy, about dying. Hermione was quiet. Not that Hermione is processing quiet, the Hermione doesn't know what to say quiet, which was rarer, and which indicated that the situation had exceeded the capacity of analysis to address. I don't think you're going to die, Hermione said. Eventually, that's kind. It's also not evidence-based. It's partially evidence-based, Hermione said. The prophecy says neither can live while the other survives. It doesn't say you die. It says one of you has to go. And the odds of it being Voldemort rather than me are unknown, Hermione said. The prophecy doesn't specify odds. Prophecies are descriptive, not prescriptive. That sounds like something you read in a book. I read it in 3 books, Hermione said. The consensus is that prophecies describe possible outcomes, not guaranteed ones. Possible, Neville said. So it's possible that I survive. It's possible that you survive, Hermione confirmed. And it's possible that I don't. Also possible. Hermione, that's not helpful. I know, Hermione said. I'm trying to be honest rather than helpful. They're sometimes different things. They're frequently different things, Neville said. I'll work on combining them, Hermione said. Thanks in the meantime, Hermione said. The prophecy is a description of a possible future. Not a script. Not a guarantee. The prophecy says you have the power to vanquish the Dark Lord. It doesn't say you won't. It says you can. The power the Dark Lord knows not, Neville said. Love, Hermione said, according to Dumbledore. Your mother's love. The protection. My mother's love is a shield charm on my forehead, Neville said. Your mother's love is in your blood, Hermione said. The shield charm is the expression. The love is the source. The love of a person I never met, Neville said. Protecting me from a person who wants to kill me. With magic I don't understand. In a war I didn't choose. Yes, Hermione said. That's my life, Neville said. That's your situation, Hermione said. Your life is the part where you eat sandwiches with Ron and grow mandrakes and make your gran's hat turn blue. My gran's hat hasn't turned blue since I was 5, Neville said. Maybe it's time for an encore, Hermione said. Neville almost smiled. The almost was visible, and the visibility was... It was the thing. The thing about Hermione was that Hermione could take the worst information in the world and reframe it through analysis until the worst was still present, but the analysis had created space around it. Space where the almost smile could exist. Year 5. Neville and Ginny Neville's friendship with Ginny Weasley was the friendship that neither of them talked about because talking about it would have made it something that required definition. And definition was the enemy of the uncategorizable connection that existed between the boy who lived and the youngest Weasley. You're different from the others, Ginny said. 4th year, in the common room. Late? Different how? The others, Harry, Ron, Hermione, they treat you like the boy who lived, who happens to be their friend. I treat you like my friend, who happens to be the boy who lived. Is there a difference? Neville said. The difference is which word comes first, Ginny said. Friend comes first, Neville said. Friend comes first, Ginny confirmed. The friendship deepened in 5th year, when the Dar brought them into shared purpose. Ginny was a gifted caster, aggressive, precise, the Weasley combat instinct refined through years of hexing her brothers. Ginny in the Dar was the student who pushed Harry's curriculum the hardest, who demanded more advanced spells, who treated the training not as preparation, but as investment. You fight like you enjoy it, Neville observed, after a session where Ginny had bat-bogey hexed 3 opponents in succession. I fight like I'm good at it, Ginny said. Enjoyment is a side effect. Is there a difference? The difference is that if I said I enjoyed it, people would think there's something wrong with me, Ginny said. If I say I'm good at it, people think I'm confident. Same feeling, different framing. Slytherin logic, Neville said. Weasley pragmatism, Ginny said. We're too poor for Slytherin and too loud for Ravenclaw. And too stubborn for Hufflepuff, Neville said. And too reckless for anyone's good, Ginny said. Hence Gryffindor. In 7th year, when the Carrows came and the resistance formed and the room of requirement became a sanctuary, Ginny was the person who kept Neville functional. Not through emotional support. Ginny was not an emotional support person. Through practical intervention. Eat, Ginny said. Every morning. I'm not hungry. Eat anyway. You can't cast the Cruciatus you can't receive the Cruciatus if you're malnourished. Your body needs calories to recover from nerve damage. Since when are you a healer? Since my boyfriend started getting tortured daily and I had to learn how to keep him alive. I'm your boyfriend? Neville said. We've been sharing a sleeping bag for 3 weeks, Ginny said. If that's not dating, I don't know what is. We never discussed eat the toast. Neville, he ate the toast. The relationship was defined retroactively, which was appropriate for 2 people who had been so consumed by survival that the usual progression of flirting, asking, dating had been replaced by the wartime progression of sharing resources, sharing warmth, sharing life. For the record, Neville said, later in the room, I would have asked you properly, if there'd been time. I know, Ginny said. There wasn't time. So I decided for both of us. If you savoury Ginny, I will hex you, Ginny said. Very practical, Neville said. Better, Ginny said. Post-war, Neville and Harry at 25 Neville and Harry met for drinks on the last Saturday of every month. The tradition started after the war and continued for 30 years, the unnegotiable. Both of them show up commitment that was the adult version of the friendship that had started with a sandwich on a train. The leaky cauldron. A corner table. 2 butterbeers. How's teaching? Harry asked. October, 7 years after the war. Good, the second years are working on bouncing bulbs. One of them launched a bulb through the greenhouse window. Through the window? Through the closed window. The glass went everywhere. The bulb landed in the lake. What did you do? I gave her full marks, Neville said. The launch distance was extraordinary. You gave her marks for breaking a window, Harry said. I gave her marks for exceeding expectations, Neville said. The expectation was, pop the bulb. She launched it 40 meters. That's innovation. That's destruction, Harry said. Innovation and destruction share a border, Neville said. You sound like Dumbledore, Harry said. I sound like a teacher who's been doing this for 5 years, Neville said. Teachers eventually sound like the teachers who taught them. It's a professional disease. I sound like my mum, Harry said. You've always sounded like your mum, Neville said. She'd be pleased to hear that, Harry said. And horrified. How is Lily? Neville said. She's mum, Harry said. She's published another paper on sacrificial protections. She's convinced there's a way to, generalize the protection. Make it available without the sacrifice. Is that possible? Neville said. Mum thinks so. Dad says she's been saying that for 20 years. I think the research is how she lives with it. With what? With not being the one who died, Harry said. She's never said it that way. But I think she's been trying to turn Alice's death into something that helps other people. So it means something. It already means something, Neville said. It means I'm alive. I know, Harry said, but Mum needs it to mean more. She needs the science of it, the replicability. She needs to understand why it works, so she can make it work for other people. So other mothers don't have to die, Neville said. So other children don't have to grow up without them, Harry said. They drank their butterbeers. The leaky cauldron was quiet at this hour, the late afternoon lull between the lunch crowd and the evening regulars. You ever think about it? Neville said. About what would have happened if Voldemort had chosen you instead of me? Sometimes, Harry said. Do you think you'd have handled it better? I think I'd have handled it differently, Harry said. I had parents. I had training. I had a wand that worked. I'd have been flashier, more dramatic, more Harry. And I'd have been... You'd have been the normal kid, Harry said. The kid who grew up with parents and who played Quidditch and who didn't have a scar. Would I have been happier? Neville said. You'd have been different, Harry said. Happier is complicated. You're happy now, aren't you? With the teaching and the greenhouses and Ginny and... I'm happy now, Neville said. I'm asking about then. Then is the place where the prophets and the philosophers argue, Harry said. And I'm neither. You're the kid who sat next to me at the sorting feast and said your mum would like me, Neville said. She did like you, Harry said. She still likes you. She says you're the best thing to happen to Hogwarts since indoor plumbing. That's a very Lily Potter compliment, Neville said. She means it, Harry said, in the Lily Potter way where the compliment is simultaneously sincere and backhanded. Indoor plumbing, Neville said. Essential and underappreciated, Harry said, her exact words. The last scene, Professor Longbottom, September 1st, 25 years after the Battle of Hogwarts. Professor Longbottom stood at the front of Greenhouse 3 and watched the first years file in. 11-year-olds, new robes, new wands, new everything. The way they walked, half terrified, half thrilled, the gait of children encountering a world that was larger than they'd imagined. Welcome to Herbology, Neville said. I'm Professor Longbottom. Are you a student started? I'm the Herbology teacher, Neville said. That's the relevant part. The student subsided. The class settled. 30 11-year-olds sitting on greenhouse benches surrounded by plants that moved and breathed and occasionally tried to eat things. Today we're working with pufferpods, Neville said. Pufferpods are simple. You drop them, they bloom. The lesson is not in the blooming, the lesson is in the handling. Handling, a student said. The way you hold a living thing determines how it responds to you, Neville said. Hold a pufferpod too tightly, it panics. Hold it too loosely, it falls. The correct grip is firm enough to maintain control, gentle enough to allow the thing to live. That sounds like it's about more than pufferpods, the student said. Everything in herbology is about more than the plant, Neville said. But we start with the plant. The rest comes later. The students handled their pufferpods. Some dropped them immediately. Some held them too tightly. Some, a few, found the grip. The correct grip. The grip that said, I am here, I am holding you, I am not going to crush you or abandon you. Neville walked between the benches, adjusting grips, showing technique, the teaching that he'd been doing for 25 years and that still felt, every September, like the first time. Professor, a student said, my pufferpod won't bloom. Show me your grip. The student was holding the pod at arm's length, between thumb and forefinger, as far from her body as possible. You're afraid of it, Neville said. It might explode, the student said. It might bloom, Neville said. Blooming and exploding look the same from the outside. The difference is whether you're holding on. What if I hold on and it explodes? The student said. Then you get pink stuff on your robes, Neville said. Which washes out. And if it blooms? Then you've grown something, Neville said. And growing something is the whole point. The student adjusted her grip, brought the pod closer, held it the way Neville had shown, firm, gentle, present. The pufferpod bloomed. Pink petals, cascading, the small and unremarkable magic of a plant doing what plants did when someone held them correctly. I grew something, the student said. You did, Neville said. The greenhouse was warm. The September light came through the glass. The plants moved in their pots, the venomous tentacular stretching, the mandrakes rustling, the devil's snare. Professor Longbottom stood among the plants and the students and the September light and the scar on his forehead that was visible in certain lights and invisible in others. The cherry wand was in his pocket. Frank's old wand was in a box on his desk. Snape's letter was in the same box. The chocolate frog card of his mother, Alice Longbottom, Aura, Herbology Prize 3 years running, Deadpan Comedian, Ironer of Socks, was beside them. The greenhouse door was open.